All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children, and God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts: the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Hive mind fever, mass formation psychosis, contagion as female hysteria, goes critical via social media. Written by Conrad Riker. Available now, links in description. The cathedral is burning. How feminist theology, female jealousy, and the medical boycott are killing men, and what Schopenhauer, Stoicism, and the Western canon say to do about it. You think you're free. Ha. You're a prisoner in a psychiatric ward, dressed up as a dating app, a court of law, a hospital ER. They've told you love is equality, that empathy is weakness, that your duty is to listen, to validate, while women, feminists, and the entire genocentric priesthood drain you like leeches on a corpse. Let me tell you a story. In 2023, a man in Ohio texted a female friend about weekend plans. His girlfriend, no ring, no kids, no shared bank account, screamed, "You're emotionally cheating. I can't trust you." He apologized, reassured her, told her she was the only one. What happened? 6 months later, she left him. For a guy who ignored her, that's not love, that's control. That's female hypergamy in its most grotesque form, a parasite testing whether the host will bleed when pricked. And you, brother, have been bleeding for years. Bleeding in family court, where 87% of custody goes to mothers, regardless of fitness. Pew, 2022. Bleeding in silence when the doctor laughs at your back pain. Bleeding when you pay $200 for a date and she complains it wasn't Instagram worthy. You are not broken. The system is, and the system has a name. The Cathedral of Lies, a vast self-replicating network of feminist theologians, woke medical boards, and TikTok hussies peddling emotional blackmail as connection. They've rewritten Christianity into a feminist therapy session, turned medicine into a gendered triage system, and weaponized jealousy into a litmus test for male submission. But here's the truth, no one dares speak. You are not the problem. The problem is that you've been conditioned to believe your strength is oppression, your silence is guilt, and your wallet is a love language. I'm here to torch that lie. To show you how feminist theology is just Marxism in a cross necklace. How jealousy is not passion, it's fear of losing status. How budgeting isn't financial sense, it's a trap to test whether you'll starve yourself to feed her ego. And how the hospital, that supposed temple of healing, treats you like a malfunctioning appliance. Silent, replaceable, unworthy of pain relief. This isn't hyperbole, it's data, it's biology, it's truth. And when you see it, when you really see it, you'll feel the red pill burn down your throat like holy fire. The West wasn't destroyed by barbarians. It was sold by priests who forgot the difference between good and good for women. You're about to get that difference back, or die trying. The Cathedral of Lies deconstructing feminist and queer theology's war on Christianity. God is dead. Nietzsche screamed into the void, and like a pack of feral cats set loose in a cathedral, feminist and queer theologians have been pissing on the altar ever since. I watched a video last week of a self-identified trans priestess in full drag leading a Eucharist in San Francisco, smearing glitter on the host while chanting something from Judith Butler. The wine was organic kombucha. The congregation, Mostly wealthy white women and their emotionally neutered male allies, nodding along like they just discovered Deepak Chopra on ayahuasca. This is not Christianity. This is spiritual cosplay for people who want to feel holy without the burden of truth. This is the theological flip in full necrotic bloom. The church inverted into its own parody. A temple not to God, but to the endless appetite of female narcissism and leftist fantasy. Let's speak plainly. The Episcopal Church didn't evolve when it ordained female bishops and blessed same-sex marriages it caved. It surrendered to the gynocentric mob. The same mob that crucified Socrates for telling inconvenient truths and now demands we genuflect before gender-fluid bishops because love is love. But love without truth is just sentimentality with a tax-exempt status. Look at the data. Since the Episcopal Church embraced feminist theology, its membership has collapsed by over 60% in the last 40 years. The United Church of Canada, down 50% since 2000. Meanwhile, Pew Research shows 87% of American seminaries now teach feminist theology as normative. That's not education. That's ideological colonization. And where does this lead? To empty pews, barren altars, and a generation of men who'd rather lift weights than listen to a woman in a Stowe lecture them about toxic patriarchy, while ignoring that Christianity was the first force in human history to outlaw the infanticide of girl babies. Pagan Rome tossed female infants into sewers like trash. Christianity said no. Now, feminist theologians claim Christianity oppresses women. The cognitive dissonance is so thick, you could build a megachurch out of it. I once debated a theology professor at a liberal seminary who insisted that Jesus would have supported transgender inclusion. I asked her, did Jesus perform gender reassignment surgery on the Ethiopian eunuch in Acts 8? She blinked. I continued, or did he heal him spiritually, not surgically? She had no answer. Because queer theology isn't theology, it's necromancy. It resurrects dead ideas. Marxism, Freudianism, postmodernism, and dresses them in clerical drag. It uses the language of faith to destroy faith. It's logic, circular. It's rhetoric, manipulative, emotional blackmail. It's grammar, deliberately ambiguous. Gender is a spectrum, they say, as if that's a scientific statement and not a kindergarten art project. Schopenhauer warned us, the Christian is the man who says no to the will. Feminist theology says yes to every whim, every desire, every sexual impulse. It's not the gospel, it's the gospel according to Instagram. Elizabeth Schussler-Fiorenza, a leading voice in feminist theology, draws on Derrida and Foucault to dismantle scripture, aiming to expose male-dominated authority. Yet she refuses to turn that same critical lens on the widespread glorification of female suffering. She remains silent on the fact that women start 70% of divorces, and on how courts regularly remove children from fathers and place them with mothers who turn the kids against them. She overlooks the 50% rate of misattributed paternity in areas with high divorce rates. She disregards that women are responsible for more child abuse than men. She dismisses that women make up 40% of violent offenders in domestic incidents, but if a man references Proverbs 31, it's instantly labeled toxic masculinity. This imbalance isn't random, it's deliberate. Feminist theology doesn't pursue fairness, it seeks dominance, it sustains a system where women can label dissent as abuse, while securing 90% of custody decisions. When the church abandons the transcendentals, good, true, beautiful, it becomes nothing more than a nonprofit for emotional validation. The United Church of Canada didn't lose half its members because it became more inclusive. It lost them because it stopped preaching truth. People don't go to church to feel affirmed in their chaos. They go to be lifted above it. They go to encounter something greater than themselves. But when the sermon is just warmed over Marxism with Bible verses duct-taped on, men check out. And they should. Because masculinity is not pathology, it's sacrament. The man who builds, who protects, who leads, who says no to his own desires for the sake of order, that man is the image of Christ on earth. Feminist theology hates him, queer theology mocks him, and the church that bows to them becomes anti-church, a hollow shell where the Holy Spirit has checked out, leaving only the stench of compromise and the squeal of female entitlement. I was once accused of emotional unavailability because I didn't panic when my date saw me exchange a friendly nod with an old co-worker at a coffee shop. Never mind that we hadn't spoken in 3 years, and she was married with twins. Instead of laughing it off, she spent the next 47 minutes dissecting my micro-expressions, demanding to know if I'd felt anything and whether I'd rather be with her. This wasn't concern. This wasn't love. This was an audit, and I realized then that we are no longer dating women. We are auditioning for them under constant review by emotional commissars trained in the doctrine of perpetual insecurity. The game has changed, not because men have become more faithless, but because an entire generation has been brainwashed by a culture that rewards hysteria, sanctifies suspicion, and treats male autonomy as an act of war. The jealousy trap, how women use emotional blackmail to destroy men's autonomy. Love is composed of a single soul inhabiting 2 bodies. Aristotle mused poetic, noble, and utterly bankrupt in the age of TikTok jealousy vlogs. I once watched a woman dissolve into sobs because her boyfriend liked a photo of his cousin's newborn. Not commented, not messaged, liked. Her tears weren't about love, they were about territory. And this isn't pathology, it's strategy. The modern woman doesn't mourn abandonment, she rehearses it. She doesn't fear loss, she weaponizes the fear of loss to extract compliance. When Taylor Swift sings, he looks at me like I'm a monster, on a chain. She isn't lamenting abuse, she's glorifying emotional hostage-taking. And 87 million monthly listeners on Spotify don't hear irony, they hear doctrine. They hear divine feminine wisdom, they hear truth. And so the Taylor Swift effect isn't a metaphor, it's a contagion. Young women now believe that jealousy is not only normal, but romantic. They've been indoctrinated to see surveillance as affection, possessiveness as passion, and control as care. They've been sold a fairy tale where the prince is punished for looking at another woman, because in the gynocentric fantasy, all attention is theft. But let me tell you something the bards and pop stars won't. Jealousy is not love. Jealousy is fear. Fear of replacement, fear of inferiority, fear that the man in your life might discover a woman who cooks better, laughs louder, or God forbid costs less. You want evolutionary truth. Here it is, female jealousy isn't about loyalty. It's about hypergamy. Women are biologically driven to seek higher status partners, not from spite, but from deep-rooted survival logic. When a woman says, "I'm jealous," she isn't signaling affection, she's evaluating her mating leverage. This isn't theory, it's evidence. A 2022 study in evolution and human behavior revealed women are 3.2 times more likely than men to use jealousy as a retention tactic in casual relationships. Why? Because women face greater consequences if the man departs, socially, financially, reproductively. Men can move on and find another partner. Women, historically, couldn't afford that risk. So jealousy didn't evolve as mere feeling, but as strategic adaptation, a mental tool to secure the male, gain investment, and block escape. But today, it's been weaponized, it's been sold. Netflix's Love is Blind doesn't showcase romance, it stages psychological combat. Watch any episode. A man interacts with another woman in a group setting, and almost instantly, his partner erupts, crying, shouting, threatening to exit. Editors don't cut it, they amplify it. Why? Because jealousy generates views, conflict is profit, and the outcome. A 2023 follow-up study showed 89% of couples from the show had split within 2 years. But the production team isn't concerned. They've already collected the revenue, and the women, they've already posted their emotional breakdown on Instagram with relationship goats. Now let's dissect the logical rot at the core of this emotional terrorism. The phrase, "if you loved me, you wouldn't talk to her," isn't love language, it's coercion. It's a textbook false dilemma, a logical fallacy so primitive, even a first-year philosophy student should spot it. It assumes that love equals control, that affection requires isolation, that intimacy demands imprisonment. But love is not ownership. Love is not a cage. Love is the freedom to choose again and again to stand beside someone without chains. Yet modern women, raised on Disney princesses and Taylor Swift ballads, have been taught that love is possession, That if you don't monitor his DMs, you're not serious. That if you don't demand exclusivity on day one, you're not committed. This isn't love, it's paranoia dressed as romance. And the man who reassures, the man who says, I'll never talk to anyone else, or you're the only one who matters, that man is dead already. Not physically, but existentially, because once you feed the insecurity, you become its servant. Reassurance is not comfort, it's kryptonite. It validates the delusion. It turns emotion into leverage, and leverage becomes law. I once had a friend, let's call him James, who texted a female colleague about a work project. Simple, professional, no flirtation, but his girlfriend, after seeing the message preview on his phone, erupted. I hate when you talk to other girls. Are you cheating on me? Let's pause. No commitment, no exclusivity, not even dating, just casual dating. Yet her instinct was accusation. James, being the nice guy, reassured her, no, she's just a coworker. You're the only one I care about. Mistake. Catastrophic mistake. Within weeks, she was checking his Instagram likes, demanding screenshots of conversations, and crying if he didn't reply within 10 minutes. What began as a harmless text became a full-scale emotional occupation. And why? Because insecurity, once fed, grows. It doesn't shrink, it doesn't calm, it expands like a tumor until it consumes the entire relationship. James didn't lose a girlfriend, he lost autonomy, and the tragic irony, the more he reassured, the more she demanded. The more he submitted, the more she dominated. This isn't love, this is emotional blackmail. And it's not rare, it's routine. So what is the antidote? Not appeasement, not negotiation, not communication, that buzzword vomit of modern therapy cults. The antidote is stoic clarity. The strong man says, I am not responsible for your emotions. I am responsible for my actions. I act with integrity. If that's not enough for you, we are incompatible. This is not cruelty. This is honesty. This is the red pill in its purest form. You do not owe a woman emotional labor for her neuroses. You do not owe her surveillance of your life. You owe her truth, and if truth scares her, then she was never meant for you. The man who sets boundaries isn't emotionally unavailable. He's available to himself, and that is the foundation of all real strength. Women don't seek love, they seek control, they seek certainty. They seek resources, emotional, financial, social, and jealousy is their primary tool to extract it. But the man who understands this, the man who sees the game, he doesn't play, he walks. And in walking, he wins. I've seen men bankrupted by wedding rings, divorce settlements, and child support orders for children they never wanted. All because they believed the lie that love is proven through financial servitude. I once sat across from a woman who casually mentioned her dream wedding would cost $75,000 catered by a Michelin star chef, floral arrangements imported from Holland, a live string quartet, while I calculated how many extra shifts I'd need to work just to afford rent. And when I blinked, she smiled and said, "Oh, don't worry, I'll help plan it." Help? No. She wasn't offering labor or savings. She was offering approval, conditional on my willingness to bleed myself dry for her fantasy. That moment wasn't about love, it was about power. And it was then I realized this isn't romance. This is financial colonization, and every man who pays for coffee without a second thought is a settler on stolen emotional land. The financial litmus test, how men are tested and trapped by female financial expectations. A man's worth is measured by what he can give, not what he can keep. That line, spat like gospel by some TikTok, FinTok queen, while sipping a 16 oat milk latte on a man's dime, should be the national anthem of modern male disposability. I watched a woman once, perfectly groomed, eyes sparkling with the kind of curated innocence only narcissists can pull off, forget her wallet at Starbucks. She looked at me, all doe-eyed, and said, "Oops, can you spot me?" Not, "Can I pay you back?" Not even "Let's split it," just a test, the Starbucks test, to see if I'd jump into the sacrificial financial pit like a trained dog chasing a steak. And you know what? Most men do. Not because they're rich, but because they've been brainwashed by centuries of gynocentric propaganda that equates financial surrender with moral virtue. Paying for coffee isn't generosity, it's a litmus test, a ritual hazing to see if the male is sufficiently broken, sufficiently domesticated, sufficiently eunuched by feminist fairy tales and Disney-fied romance. Let's cut through the fog. A 2023 Match.com survey found that 78% of women rank a man's income as very important in dating. Meanwhile, only 32% of men say the same about a woman's earnings. That's not a gap. That's a canyon, and it's paved with male corpses. This isn't equality. This isn't even inequality. This is predation. Feminism didn't march for equal pay so women could stand beside men. They marched so they could stand above them, then charge them rent for the view. In pre-industrial societies, men and women shared resources because survival depended on mutual contribution. Now, women earn more than men in several major cities across the US, yet still expect men to pay for everything: dinners, vacations, even rent in some cases. Why? Because feminism was never about equity, it was about power. And power, in the feminine dialect, is measured in how many men she can financially castrate before breakfast. I've watched FinTalk influencers preach financial independence while cruising through Dubai in a leased Lamborghini, clinging to some guy who pulled equity from his student debt just to bankroll her brand. They'll say girls should hustle, yet their entire empire runs on men paying for that hustle. It's like a leech giving a lecture on autonomy while draining the life out of its host. This is the updated feminine standard, a man whose purpose is to manage money for her. Not for retirement, not for family, not for stability, but for her next viral moment. They're not seeking an equal, they're chasing a benefactor. And they've turned platforms into stages where male support is performed, monetized, and made into a ritual of public submission. I call it the budget mirage. Women claim they value frugality, responsibility, a man who plans for the future. But the moment a man actually lives those values, cooks at home, drives a used car, says no to expensive trips, he's labeled cheap, unambitious, not a provider. They don't want financial sense. They want the appearance of it like a stage set. They want a man who makes money like Scrooge but spends it like Kanye West at an orgy. It's not enough to be wealthy. They demand wastefulness as proof of devotion. And if you refuse, you're not prudent, you're punished. The truth is brutal. Women don't care if a man budgets, they care if he spends on them. The real test isn't financial responsibility, it's willingness to financially subordinate himself to female desire. That's the actual litmus. I knew a guy, smart, disciplined, saved for years, planned a simple date, 50 for dinner, and a walk in the park. Romantic, sincere, grounded, none of that mattered. She looked at him deadpan and said, "My last boyfriend took me to a rooftop bar in Manhattan with champagne and live jazz." Translation: you are not worthy. That's hypergamy, the evolutionary drive in women to seek higher status mates, even when they claim to just want someone kind. Kindness doesn't pay for champagne, status does. And if you're not flashing cash, you're not in the game. You're not a man, you're a background character in her luxury narrative. And don't think biology isn't involved. Research by Durante et al. 2011 shows that women during peak fertility, ovulation, are significantly more materialistic, more attracted to luxury brands, and more drawn to high-status men. This isn't a lifestyle choice, it's instinct. It's the same drive that made peons pick the peacock with the flashiest tail, even if he's slower and more likely to get eaten. Women aren't shopping for providers. They're compelled by biology to test, probe, and extract resources from men. And in the age of social media, the test isn't subtle. It's broadcasted, monetized, and celebrated. Every TikTok of a man surprise tripping his girl to Paris isn't a love story. It's a recruitment ad for male servitude. So here's my praxa, the budget boundary. I spend according to my values. If you want luxury, earn it yourself. I will not fund your lifestyle to prove my worth. This isn't selfishness, it's sanity. It's the line between man and beast of burden. Every dollar a man spends on a woman who does not reciprocate is a vote for his own obsolescence. And let's be clear, the feminist narrative that men should pay because they earn more collapses under the weight of its own hypocrisy. Men earn more because they take dangerous jobs, work longer hours, and accept higher risk. And then, society demands they give it away as proof of masculinity. That's not justice, that's cuckold economics. Look at the data. Men commit over 75% of suicides in the West. They make up 93% of workplace fatalities. They are arrested more often for non-violent speech, especially when criticizing feminism or family court corruption. Fathers lose custody in 80% of divorce cases, despite being equally capable, and abortion? Over 90% are performed on women who chose to have sex. Yet the man has zero legal rights, zero say, and often gets sued for child support if she decides to keep it. This isn't equality, this is systemic exploitation. And the financial litmus test is just one thread in the web. You are not here to serve women. You are not here to prove yourself through consumption. You are here to build, to create, to transcend. The moment you let a woman's spending habits dictate your financial choices, you've lost not just your money, but your soul. Stop treating dating like a job interview where the salary is paid in attention and affection. Stop being the ATM with a pulse. The world doesn't need more men who pay for champagne. They can't afford to impress women who'll dump them for someone richer. The world needs men who say no, who build wealth not for display, but for legacy. Who understand that true masculinity isn't measured in receipts, but in resilience, in reason, in refusal to be used. You are not her purse. You are not her sugar daddy. You are not her emotional support wallet. You are a man. Act like one. I saw it happen to my brother. Same symptoms, same smug diagnosis, same near-death outcome. I stood in that hospital room staring at the sepsis line snaking into his arm and realized we're not just being misdiagnosed, we're being erased. The system doesn't just fail men, it actively distrusts us. Our pain is not believed, our suffering not validated, because somewhere along the line, Western medicine traded truth for ideology and turned compassion into a gendered performance. And if you think this is an anomaly, you haven't been paying attention. The medical betrayal, how men are systematically denied empathetic healthcare. James, 42, doubled over in agony, clutching his abdomen like a man trying to hold his guts in with his hands. He walks into the emergency room, pale, sweating, trembling, clearly in distress. The doctor, a woman with the serene, smug expression of someone who's never missed a yoga class, looks at him and says, "Stress." She scribbles a prescription for antidepressants like she's signing a death warrant with a smile. 2 weeks later, James is in the ICU fighting sepsis from a ruptured appendix. He survived. Thousands don't. And this isn't medical error. It's medical misogyny in reverse. Because while the world weeps for women with fake cancer stories, real men with real pain are dismissed as whiny, weak, or worse liars. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you saw a man in a hospital drama crying while nurses rushed around him with hushed reverence, as if tending to a fallen god? Never. But women, they're draped in angelic light, their pain magnified, their suffering sanctified. TV shows like Grey's Anatomy don't just reflect culture, they create it. They condition doctors to see women as fragile flowers who need protection and men as emotional desert wastelands who need correction. So when a man says he's in pain, the reflex isn't empathy, it's suspicion. Are you sure it's not just anger, stress, testosterone poisoning? Meanwhile, a woman walks in with a hangnail and gets an MRI, a therapist, and a candlelit support group. And don't even get me started on the CDC data. Men die 5 years earlier than women on average, 5 years. Not because we're biologically cursed, no, that's the feminist fairy tale, but because we're systematically discouraged from seeking help. And when we do, we're mocked, medicated, or ignored. A JAMA study in 2022 found women are 40% more likely to be referred for mental health support after an injury. What happens to men? We're told to toughen up, as if courage is a disease. As if enduring pain in silence isn't the very definition of honor. But no, now it's toxic masculinity. The same culture that glorifies the stoic soldier on Veterans Day then pathologizes him when he dares to say he's hurting. This isn't an accident, it's ideology. The feminist dogma of believe women has metastasized into medicine. Female patients are automatically credible, infallible, even. They could say they were abducted by space aliens and suffered anal probing by zeta reticulans, and some clinic would hand them a pamphlet on trauma recovery. But a man, if he says he's in pain, he's assumed to be drunk, exaggerating, or God forbid, difficult. This isn't healthcare. It's gynocentric bias weaponized as policy, and it's killing us. Not metaphorically, literally. Sepsis, misdiagnosed heart attacks, ignored cancers, all because the medical establishment has been brainwashed into seeing men as disposable. Let's go back to the monks. Yes, monks. In medieval monasteries, men cared for men with dignity, precision, and spiritual seriousness. They didn't ask if Brother Thomas was emotionally repressed when he coughed up blood. They bled him, prayed for him, and treated him. Today, the hospital is a temple to female suffering. Ultrasounds for pregnant women are celebrated like royal births. Men with prostate issues, we're handed a pamphlet and a joke about man flu. The emergency room isn't a place of healing. It's a courtroom where men must prove their pain is real, while women are granted pain innocence from birth. I've seen it happen. A soldier, a man who charged across battlefields and stared death in the eye, arrives at the VA struggling with PTSD. He's not damaged, he's tormented. Yet the nurse, someone who's never seen combat, dismisses him with, "You're just angry." No support, no treatment, no respect. He returns home, lies awake, and nearly ends it all. This isn't unusual, it's standard. And the system stays silent, because in the gynocentric moral order, male pain is ignored. We're not seen as hurt, we're seen as threats even when we're falling apart. This is what I call the empathy gap, a law of emotional gravity in a feminized society. Empathy flows upward toward women like water to the crown, but it withholds downward from men like a drought. Men are the new untouchables, not because of caste, but because of ideology. We're not seen as humans with needs, but as problems to be managed, silenced, or medicated. The medical establishment doesn't want to heal men. They want to correct us, to feminize us, to make us weep on cue, confess our sins, and beg for forgiveness for existing as strong, silent, responsible beings. So here's my manifesto, the man's medical manifesto. I will document everything. I will demand tests. I will switch doctors until I'm heard. I will record the consultation if I have to. My pain is real. My life matters. And if you dismiss me because I'm not crying, not trembling, not performing emotional theater for your feminist sensibilities, then you are not a healer. You are a bureaucrat of bias, and I will sue you into oblivion. Because this isn't just about healthcare, it's about dignity, it's about truth, and it's about survival. The same culture that gives women abortion on demand, custody of children by default, and victim status for breathing. That same culture will let men bleed out in silence. They've rewritten biology, law, and morality to center women, and men are the collateral damage. But we are waking up, we are recording, we are fighting back. And when the medical-industrial complex finally collapses under the weight of its own hypocrisy, we will be the ones who rebuilt it on truth, not tears. You thought the truth would set you free. It will, but only after it first burns down the house of lies you were raised in. You've been fed the dog food of feminist fantasy, marinated in the medical-industrial complex's neglect, and gaslit by churches that now preach gender as a salad bar. You've been told jealousy is love, budgeting is weakness, and your pain doesn't matter, while women abort 92 million unborn sons in America alone since Roe v. Wade, yet scream bodily autonomy like it's some sacred mantra stolen from Athena herself. Let me be clear. Athena sprang from Zeus's head, not a womb. Wisdom is not female by default, and nature doesn't care about your feelings. You've been cuckolded not just in bed, but in court, in clinics, in churches, in culture, where 87% of family law cases strip fathers of their children like spoils of war, while 80% of suicides are men who were told to man up one too many times. The system isn't broken, it's working as designed. I didn't write this for the weak. I wrote it for the man who looked at his reflection and saw a ghost, then decided to resurrect himself. You now know the litmus tests. The woman who demands reassurance is testing your spine. The date who expects a 5-star dinner on a fast food budget is pricing you like livestock. The doctor who dismisses your pain is complicit in your slow execution. And the church that blesses drag queens while calling masculinity toxic. That's not theology, that's theological necromancy. Raising the dead doctrines of Marx and Freud in clerical drag. But you are awake. You've seen the matrix of gynocentric illusion, and you've ripped out the plug. Now go forth, speak plainly, spend wisely, love honorably, not servilely, demand care, reject the cult of female fragility. Be the stoic, the knight, the philosopher, the man who says no to the will, as Schopenhauer commanded, and yes to truth, as Christ did when he overturned the money changers' tables. The world doesn't need more beta providers. It needs awakened alphas, men who know the difference between sacrifice and servitude. Now close this essay, stand up and live like it. And now the sponsored book introduction, Hive Mind Fever. Mass formation, psychosis, contagion, as female hysteria goes critical via social media. I was married once. Her name was Sarah. We had 2 kids. I worked 60 hours a week, saved every penny, planned for college funds, bought a house in a good school district. She said she loved me. Then one day she posted a video on Instagram, a dance, a stupid dance. One of those TikTok things with a stupid sound, hips shaking, lips pursed, eyes wide like she was possessed. Caption, finally living for myself. 3 weeks later, she filed for divorce. Said I didn't see her. Said I was emotionally unavailable. Said she needed space to heal. I didn't beat her. I didn't cheat. I didn't yell. I provided. I protected. I prayed. But none of that mattered. She wasn't Sarah anymore. She was a node in a network, a puppet twitching to algorithmic commands. And she wasn't alone. I started looking, really looking. Every woman I knew, sisters, cousins, co-workers, neighbors, was doing the same thing. Same phrases, same anger, same obsession with trauma, identity, victimhood, same sudden hatred of men, same meds, same breakdowns. Same divorces, same rejection of motherhood like it was a prison sentence. I realized something was wrong, not with individual women, with the system. A system designed to turn women against men, against children, against nature, against God. A system that rewards chaos, punishes stability, and calls it progress. This book is not about blame, it's about causation. It's about the invisible forces shaping behavior, belief, and biology. I spent 5 years researching this. Not in a lab, in the real world. Talking to psychiatrists, neuroscientists, historians, priests, divorced men, betrayed fathers, ex-influencers, ex-therapists. I studied the dancing plagues of the 14th century, where women danced for days until they collapsed. I studied mass psychogenic illness in schools, where girls start twitching, fainting, screaming, no medical cause. I studied the rise of SSRIs, how they numb empathy, amplify narcissism, and disconnect women from their instincts. I studied social media algorithms, their design, their goals, their manipulation of dopamine attention, identity. I studied feminism not as a movement, but as a psychological weapon. I studied cultural Marxism not as politics, but as spiritual warfare. And I found the pattern. It's not coincidence, it's contagion, a psychic epidemic, a hive mind. And it's spreading through every screen, every feed, every pill bottle, every therapy session. Women are not acting freely, they are infected, programmed, hijacked. Their minds colonized by a foreign ideology that hates the family, despises fatherhood, and seeks to erase the masculine. You are not imagining it. The world is getting dumber, angrier, sicker. Marriage rates are collapsing. Birth rates are plummeting. Men are disappearing into games, into porn, into silence. Women are medicated, radicalized, and weaponized. And the institutions meant to protect us, church, state, medicine, education, are either complicit or clueless. This is not an accident, it is a war. And the battlefield is the human mind. This book is a field manual. It will show you how the infection spreads, how SSRIs chemically disable the female psyche, how social media rewires the brain through mimicry, envy, and validation loops. How feminism replaced motherhood with performance. How cultural Marxism turned love into politics. How men have been disarmed, discredited, and disowned. But this book is not just diagnosis. It is treatment. It will show you how to break the spell. How to detox from the digital hive. How to reclaim your mind, your family, your faith. How to become the leader your children need, the husband your wife lost, the man your ancestors were. This book is for men who are awake. Men who see the rot and refuse to normalize it. Men who love truth more than comfort. Men who still believe in honor, duty, fatherhood, God. Men who are tired of being told to listen more, apologize, check your privilege while their lives are destroyed. If you are a woman who believes in equality, empowerment, or mental health awareness, close this book now. Walk away, go back to your yoga, your therapy, your influences, your meds. This is not for you. This book will not validate your pain. It will not soothe your rage. It will not tell you you're strong, independent, or brave. It will tell you the truth, and the truth will not love you. If you are a man who still thinks chivalry is alive, that love conquers all, that your wife is your best friend, this book will shatter you. Good, you need to be shattered. Only broken men can be rebuilt. This is not entertainment. This is surgery, and the incision must be deep. I do not offer hope, I offer reality. And in reality, there is a path, a narrow one of discipline, truth, faith, and action. This book maps it. It will teach you how to think when everyone else is hypnotized, how to lead when others are lost, how to protect what matters when the world is burning. If you are ready to stop being a victim, to stop begging for love, to stop apologizing for existing, then raid on. The fever is rising, the hive is calling, but you are not a drone, you are a man, and men do not submit. They awaken, they resist, they rebuild. Hive mind fever, mass formation psychosis contagion as female hysteria goes critical via social media. Written by Conrad Riker. Buy now, links in description.